How good was that? How good was Annabelle? Done really, really well. I love seeing the youth on stage. I love seeing the youth engaged. I love seeing you guys outwork your gifts, callings, and talents in however that looks. Roy, you're doing a great job, as well as your team. Hey, if you guys want to do more, there's more for you to do. No? You're saying no? I'll find something for you to do. Beside the point. Hey, big welcome. If you don't know who I am, my name is Robert. I'm one of the pastors here at Epicentre Church, and we are thrilled. We are thrilled to have you with us, whether you are here for the first time, whether you're here for the umpteenth time, whether you are joining us online. We're thrilled and this is me speaking personally, we feel more blessed for you to be here than you probably do. Like, we think it's absolutely thrilling to have you with us, regardless of how long or short you've been here. And so we are in a sermon series at the moment called A Better, and it's probably a statement that you would have made. At some point you would have done something, been trying to do something, trying to work something out. You would have said, there's got to be, right? Like a better way. How many of you have said that? There's got to be a better way. Youth, have you engaged with your homework and there's got to be a better way to do this? And then you found things called Chat GPT or whatever it is. There we go, right? And you're like, there's got to be a better way of doing this, and now I'm giving you all ideas on how not to do it. Don't listen to me. Schooling won't go well for you. But all of us would have made that comment at some point. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do insert whatever it is that you're trying to do at the time. And when it comes to faith, it is no different. When it comes to our spiritual journey, our connecting with the King, connecting with Jesus, there is a better way. For this reason, some of us have grown up in traditions or understandings of God that just lead us to feel deflated about ourselves, and then there's other ways that lead us to feel energized about what God wants to do in and through us. There's got to be a better way. And so over the last 4-5 weeks, I think it's been, we've looked at a handful of different subjects, and some subjects you might find interesting if you haven't been part of the journey, and you could jump on our YouTube channel and check them out. And so we started with there's got to be a better joy, or a better connection, or a better Bible, which wasn't as controversial as it sounds. And then on top of that, there was a better conversation, better reaction. Not yet. That's my job for this week. A better reaction. And then this week, I want to continue that on with a better. And we're continuing that idea. But when it comes to the topic that I want to talk about this morning, for some of you, how we're going to tackle it, you're going to listen to it, and it's going to be like this surge of encouragement. Yes, I'm outworking this well. I'm doing what I feel that God's calling me to do, and I am owning it. I am winning, so to speak. And then for some of you, for some others, you're going to listen to it, and you're going to have this realization that my faith, my spiritual journey, my connecting with Jesus has become more of a tick box that's all about fulfilling me, and it's become selfish. And then for some of you, maybe you're not used to church. You went to church at some point, but you've drifted away and you've left. And perhaps the reason that you left church and you become disorientated with the church is the very issue that I'm talking about this morning. And the very issue that I'm trying to address this morning is the reason that you left in the first place. And so the thing that I'm talking about this morning is this. It is a better communion. And so at the end of the service, we're going to take communion together. Have we actually handed that out? No. Can we hand that out, please? So we're going to be talking about this, a better communion. In the more traditional churches, like your Catholic churches and Anglican churches, it wouldn't be necessarily called communion. It'd be called something else, and be a better Eucharist. And this is what we're going to be talking about, unpacking this morning, a better communion or a better Eucharist. And so if you're new to faith, if you're new to this journey of Jesus, and you don't know what communion is, or you don't know what the Eucharist is, or simply it's this: you would have seen it on TV. You probably would have even been in a service, say a wedding or something like that at some point that potentially would have had it. And it is a little bit of bread or a little bit of a biscuit and a little bit of juice or a little bit of wine, depending on your denomination that you go to. And you would take it, and so you'd have something, you'd eat it. Obviously, you eat the bread. You don't eat wine, you eat bread, and you drink the wine. And so that's the outworking of what you do. And the reason that we do this, regardless as to what denomination, tradition that you come from. The reason that you do this is effectively because it's the outworking and the continuation of Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples, where he sits down with his disciples right before he goes to the cross to die, to be resurrected and ascend back into heaven. He sits down and he shares this meal that has gone down in history as the Last Supper. And at this place, in this Last Supper, with his disciples, he breaks some bread. And he breaks some bread, and when he breaks it, he passes it around, and he encourages them that this is my body that is given for you. And then on top of that, later on in that meal, he takes a cup of wine, and then he encourages everyone else to drink, and he says, this is a cup of the new covenant, my blood that is poured out for you. I want you to take and drink. And so the church continuously outworks that same tradition of following what Jesus did the night before he died, which is communion, which is the Eucharist. Different denominations or different traditions come at it from different angles in how they unpack it. But here's the thing. Around the globe, especially when it comes to the Western church, around the globe, every Sunday, people are engaging in the Eucharist. People are engaging in communion. People are taking part in communion, but they're not taking part in community. Which brings me to the big idea that I want to try and drill down on this morning. When it comes to communion, when it comes to the Eucharist, communion isn't complete without community. Communion isn't complete without community. And so what ends up happening across the globe is that people end up taking communion, taking part of this thing that is the most, especially depending on what denomination that you come from, the most sacred part of our worship service, because it's communing with God. But so many people around the globe, especially in the Western church, take this and it's a tick box. I've taken it, I've connected with Jesus, and leave as quick as they can. They go up the front, if you're in the more traditional churches, and the bread gets handed to you, and you eat the bread and you drink the cup, and then you leave the church service talking to as little people as you can. Or maybe in our context, it's effectively the same. We break open these little, very delicious little things. For those of you that know what's coming, you know what's coming. Thank you, Ali. One of these things, and you rip it apart, and you take the wafer out, and you eat it, and you shot it back like it's a shot. Because none of you know what that is. And then some of you are like, I was jibbed, I thought there was something else in there. But you shot it down, and you take it, and you leave as quick as you can. And we do this on we'll take this, and we won't engage in lunch with people. We won't engage with coffees. We won't engage with this. And what we've done is we've engaged in one aspect of communion, but forgotten a whole big aspect of it. And it is this. It is community. And so what we're going to be doing this morning is going through one of Paul's letters. Paul, if you don't know who Paul is, he was this guy that was hell-bent on destroying the church not long after Jesus' death. And I say Jesus' death because Paul at this point, before he becomes who he ends up becoming, he doesn't believe that Jesus raised from the dead. He doesn't believe Jesus raised from the dead and ascended into heaven. He believed that Jesus died and needed to stay dead and buried, and his memory should never come from the grave. And so Paul spends, not long after Jesus' death, he spends his life and decides that his life's mission is to destroy and squash out the church until he has this encounter with the risen King, with the risen Jesus. You can read about this in the story of Acts. And he has this encounter with the risen King and the risen Jesus, and then becomes the biggest proponent, advocate of the church moving forward. And he ends up writing this letter to the church in Corinth, and who have gone absolutely haywire and crazy. They love Jesus. They love all the things of God, but they've kind of missed the point. And so he writes this letter to them, and you know those moments where you get slapped in the face? Like your boss calls you in and you thought this was going to be a good conversation, and it's not. Or your wife, guys, You thought that was just going to be a conversation, but it wasn't. It was everything that you haven't done in the last day. That never happens to me, ever.
6 months.
Who said 6 months? Right? It's one of those. And so he draws them in like to the principal's office. I saw a meme this morning, like the other day, and it was like someone was reading the Bible, and there's this guy, and he was a figure of the Corinthian church, and he opens Paul's letter, and this hand comes out. It's like whack, whack, just slapping him across the face, because that is exactly what is about to happen to the church in Corinth with what Paul is wanting to address them on. He says this. 1 Corinthians 11 from verse 17 says, in the following things, so he encourages them, it's okay. There's some stuff that he encourages them with, but when it comes to communion, he says this, in the following instructions, I cannot praise you. How many of you, like when you get to the second page of the letter from grandma, if she wrote this, you're like, this isn't going well. Like it's about to go bad, right? There's something about to be said that I really didn't want her to bring up, or I really didn't want dad to bring it. Like he's about to bring some stuff up that I would rather not have addressed to them. In the following instructions, he says, I cannot praise you. When you meet together, he says, you are not really interested in the Lord's Supper. The Lord's Supper, understand this, the Lord's Supper is communion to them. The Lord's Supper is the Eucharist. And now, so we probably need to try and understand what this looked like for the Corinthians. And so church for the Corinthians didn't look like this. They didn't have like 100 plus people coming to church on a Sunday. Their churches were much smaller. They didn't have big buildings like this. Their churches met in homes. They had home church. They generally meet in a more wealthy person's home, not because the wealthy person was important or God ordained or devoted on or doted on by God more than anyone else, just because generally the wealthier people have the bigger homes, right? And so they'd meet generally in the wealthiest believer's home because they had the more space in their living room. And it was about somewhere between 30 and 50 people would meet in these home gatherings. And at these homes, that's men, women, children, that's everyone. And in these home gatherings, there was kind of an organized chaos. Like we have a liturgy that we follow. All churches, all modern churches have a liturgy that we follow. The general liturgy for us in the Pentecostal church or in the evangelical church is like it's a handful of songs and then some people do announcements and someone does a message and then maybe the band gets up and it's generally an iteration of that. And the more traditional churches have a different liturgy, but it's still a liturgy, right? They didn't have a liturgy. It was a bit more organized chaos. And so what it would look like is that someone would turn up and that this week someone turns up and I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna lead you in some psalms, singing some psalms. I'm gonna lead you in singing some hymns. They didn't have choruses like what we have. They had different things. And it sounds really beautiful and like Kumbaya. Like it's fantastic when Beck's leading or other people like that are leading. But then that Sunday when I turn up and I decide that I'm gonna lead you in worship, that's not a good Sunday. That's not a good Sunday. And so it's kumbaya until that person that can't sing decides that they want to lead the singing today because there's someone different every week. And so that would happen. Then someone else would like, I've got a word that I want to share and I've got a teaching that I want to give. And so they'd get up and they'd share and they'd teach and effectively preach in some shape, form, or capacity. And then someone else would jump up and like, I've got a prophetic word that I want to give. And they would give a prophetic word. Then there'd be someone else shiki-bubbering in tongues. Because they were Pentecostals, like we're Pentecostals. And someone would be speaking in tongues, and when if they'd give a prophetic word through speaking in tongues, and someone else would be interpreting that, and it was like this organized chaos effectively that would happen, all bar one part of it, right? Because what they did in amongst all this, not necessarily as chaotic as I made it sound, because they centered their entire worship around the Lord's Supper. Their entire worship was centered around the Eucharist. So their entire worship service was centered around communion, around like a wafer and juice. But the difference is that their communion, their Eucharist, their Lord's Supper didn't look like just the wafer and juice. It looked like a meal. In fact, they had a word for it in the first century. It was this. It was called a love feast. How good does that sound? A love feast. And so a love feast, it was like this. Everyone would bring something to share. And so you would bring what you could share in accordance to what you had. Like if you could afford to do a lot, you would do a lot. If you could afford to do not much, you would do not much. But everyone would come and everyone would bring something and everyone would feast. Everyone would engage in this thing called a love feast, which was their version, the early churches, the first version of communion of the Eucharist. And so they would come together and their whole worship service was centered around this, feasting together, celebrating together. Then out of that, other stuff would come. But here's the thought. The first century church's communion wasn't just emblems. It was a meal that fostered connection. Communion is supposed to do two things. It's supposed to remind us of our connection to the King. But it's never supposed to end there. It's meant to foster a connection with the body. It's meant to encourage connection. It's meant to bring in connection with it. And so, but the issue is what they're doing is they're doing the opposite. They're not fostering connection. They're fostering a disconnection. And so Paul ends up this is what he ends up saying to them. Like, you aren't interested in the Lord's Supper because for some of you, you hurry to eat your own meal without sharing with others. And as a result, some people go hungry. Well, others get drunk, and then he asks what? And there's a few statements that come after what. But effectively, he's like, what on earth are you thinking? Like, what is going on? How do you explain this? Like, some of you, you're just gorging yourselves. You're not interested in someone else eating. You're interested in you eating. Kind of like maybe what happens when you guys come, we share a meal at the start of every start of the month. If I could, sometimes I would take some of those dishes and go and hide in a corner. Some of what you all cook are so tasty, I would take it and hide in a corner. Would anyone else do that? Would anyone else do that? No? Just me? Okay. Belinda Ollerman makes milk tart. I think she knows me well enough to know that she gives me my own milk tart because maybe no one else would get milk tart. Right? None of us would do it, but this is what they were doing. They were being selfish with their feasting. They were being selfish with their communion. They were being selfish with their Eucharist. They were being selfish in their Lord's feast and became all about them trying to feast, eat, and engage. Right? This is what we've done as the Western Church. We have become great at doing communion in a way that places Jesus at the center. We become great at doing communion in a way that places Jesus at the center, where we take this and we remind ourselves of everything that Jesus did on the cross, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I love how we center Jesus at the cross on this. We center Jesus at the cross in our communion, but there's an element of it that we completely miss. And there's an element of it that they were completely missing as well. Because here's the thing, if we take the bread and ignore the body, we've completely missed the meal. I can pick this up and I can take this, I can go to the priest, I can have this, but if I miss the body, I've missed the meal. And likewise, it was like that for them. They were sitting there. And at some point, someone else came and sat across the road from them on the table. But their plate was empty because there was nothing left. They were sitting there engaging together, but they'd completely missed it. In other words, communion for them had become all about them as an individual. All about them, about what it gets for me, about what it is for me. It was all about them. The pushback is, we think that that's not us, but isn't it? To be a little bit prickly, while I know what we're not doing is running around grabbing everyone's communion emblem and taking it and eating it and trying to fill our bellies and drink as much of this delicious juice as possible. None of us are doing that, but aren't we doing something similar? Don't we take it and not engage with people? Don't we take it assuming this has made me right with the Father, but then not engage in the relationships next door to us? We end up doing something so similar to what they're doing, just in a completely different outworking, a completely different way. We end up taking this, connecting ourselves to God, but disconnecting ourselves from people. A better communion actively seeks to try to connect with not just God, but with people as well. We end up taking it where it's all about me, whereas communion should be centered around we. It's the body together. It's the body connecting together. Church lunch, post-service coffee, meals at home, etc. They are probably, if you were wanting to take a modern equivalent of what the first century church would see as communion, the first century church wouldn't see communion as these emblems that we take. They'd more see it as this. When we have a church lunch, we celebrate together, that we love on one another, where we come, it's a love feast. We do it once a month. But on top of that, like post-service coffees, it serves the same thing, because it's about connecting and communing together. Sharing with one another, engaging with one another, championing one another, encouraging one another to continue on, like meals at home, like Sage and I, we do every other week, every other Monday. We have a small group come out and we share meal together, pretty well every other Monday, but sometimes it doesn't work. But we share a meal together and we laugh together. We do some study sometimes together. We do some prayer together. Like we encourage one another. Sometimes we challenge one another. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to see people in our lives become all that it is that God has called them to be. And so we're like, you know what? We're going to commit to sharing communion together. And we're going to commune together. We're going to commune together with God at the center and with one another. We're committed to this. And so here's the thought. How many people around the globe every Sunday do this? They go and take communion, have communion, share the Eucharist, but then they go home lonely. They go home lonely because they didn't pour their heart out to someone. Or they go home lonely because no one followed them up. No one connected with them. Or they go home to an unsafe environment because they haven't shared and no one knows to step in and support and help and perhaps rescue them where they need rescuing. Or they go home feeling judged. Not sure if God's interested in them. Not sure if God loves them. Not sure if people want them around. How many... No, I won't go there. Overwhelmed, stressed, hurting, broken, lost. How many people, how many of you on a Sunday take part in communion like this, but then leave feeling like this? The truth is, the world doesn't need more religious rituals. It needs more connections that bring life. If communion is just something that we do, we tick a box, we take it, we tick the box, and then we go out, it's just become a religious ritual. As sacred and as holy as it is, it's just become a religious ritual. We don't need more religious rituals. We need more connections that bring life. And that's why communion was founded around a community joining together, sharing together, engaging together, because that's what connects us together. We're meant to be a body out working together. Communion isn't complete without communion. And so Paul, he's trying to highlight this to them. And so then he goes back and he ends up saying, "For I pass on to you what I received from the Lord himself." And we're back talking to the Corinthian church. Like he said, "I can't encourage you because this is what you're doing." And then he's inspiring them with this. Like, "For I pass on to you what I received of the Lord himself. On the night when he was betrayed, the Lord Jesus took some bread and he gave thanks to God for it. Then he broke it in pieces and said, 'This is my body which is given for you. Do this,' he says, 'in remembrance of me.' In the same way, he took the cup of wine after supper, saying, 'This is my cup, the cup of the new covenant between God and his people, an agreement confirmed with my blood. Do this,' he says, 'in remembrance of me as often as you drink it.' And then he says, 'For every time you eat this bread and drink this cup, you are announcing the Lord's death until he comes again.'" That word, announcing, it's proclaiming. It's the idea of it's proclaiming the message of the gospel, the good news of the gospel, the outworking of the gospel, which, like Romans 5:10 says, "For since our friendship with God was restored by the death of his son." That's the good news of the gospel. The good news of the gospel is that our friendship with God has been restored from what it is that Jesus did on the cross. That's the good news of the gospel, that you have been reconciled back to God. Matt Allerton, pastor from Encounter Church in Shepparton, says it like this. He says, the cross reconciled our sin and his resurrection defeated it. The cross reconciled our sin, the thing that was separating us from God. The cross reconciled that which disconnects us from people. It reconciled that and then defeated the outworkings of the wages of what's to come with that. That's the good news of the gospel, and that's what Paul's trying to highlight to them. It's not this, like taking communion isn't just taking an emblem, it is actively engaging in the outworking of reconciliation. It is actively engaging this outworking of reconciliation where we realize that I have been reconciled between me and the King. My sin does not stand in the way. My sin does not stand in the way. And on top of that, now that ministry of reconciliation is I am meant to be part of that reconciliation of reconciling people. That no one sits alone, that no one engages alone, that no one feels alone, that we're meant to be reconciling one another. And so he continues on. So anyone who eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthily is guilty of sinning against the body and the blood of the Lord. And this is where we mess it up so often. When it comes to communion, so often we read this through a lens that was never designed to be read in. You cannot drink it in an unworthy manner. You cannot drink it in a way that, like, when you've got unconfessed sin. You cannot, because if you do that, you're doing something really bad. You're drinking judgment upon yourself. That is why he says you should examine yourself before eating the bread and drinking the cup. And if you've been in church for any period of time, chances are you've heard a communion message or something of the sort which says that you must search your soul for any sin that you find in there because you cannot take this without confessing that. So that little white lie I told Karina, I better remember that so I can confess that, so I can be forgiven of that, so that Jesus can wash me clean of that, so I can take this in a worthy manner. That thing that you said you wouldn't do, that you did do, but you forgot about it, and then you've eaten the bread and you're about to drink, you're like, hang on, well, I need to confess that. And not to say there's nothing wrong with confessing these things, like there's something powerful with confessing these things, but that's not what he's talking about. What he's talking about is if you are eating this in a manner that is destroying the body, you've missed it. He's not talking about you finding all the individual sins in your life and having to confess them in order to be right before God, be able to take this in a worthy manner. He's talking to a group of people that are choosing to eat someone else's food at the dinner table, to drink someone else's wine at the dinner table, and saying, if you guys are doing it like this, you have completely missed it. And so what that would mean or look like for us, if we are taking this symbolic act in a way that's only connecting us with God and remembering what God did for us, but not actively engaging in this process of reconciliation with other people, you are taking it in the wrong manner. You're completely missing it. Because communion is supposed to connect us to God or remind us of our connection with God and encourage us to connect with one another. If we do communion without community, we've completely missed it. We can take communion and still completely miss what it means. We can hold the bread and forget the body. We can do all this. I'm going to invite the band to come up. I'm going to start wrapping up in a second. We can sip the cup and we can ignore community. We can be surrounded by people but choose to live isolated, insulated, disconnected. We can do that. The thought is this: what if the greatest act of worship in communion isn't just remembering Jesus? Isn't just remembering Jesus. It's choosing to reflect Jesus. Choosing to reflect Jesus. To forgive someone at the table. To welcome someone to it. Perhaps. To see someone who feels invisible. To invite someone who's been excluded. Communion isn't just about emblems alone. It's about embodying Jesus. It's about being Jesus' hands and feet to someone. It's about being Jesus to someone close to you, to someone next to you, to someone across from you. It's about that. And so here's the question. Is there someone that you need to? Is there someone that you need to, especially if you're a Christian this morning? If you've put your hand up to following the way of Jesus, the question is this: is there someone in your life, in your sphere of influence around you that you need to do this, that you need to reconnect with? Not in a way that's going to make you unsafe, but need to reconnect with. Maybe you've hurt them. Maybe they've hurt you. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but maybe you need to reach out and reconnect with them. That's the process of reconciliation. Jesus reconciled you to God. We're meant to be in the ministry of reconciliation, reconciling people. Is there someone that you need to reconnect with? Is there someone that you need to invite in? Is there someone that you need to choose to sit with or ask, invite to sit with you? Is there someone that you need to include that's been discluded? Is there this? Is there this? Or are you willing to let this moment become more than a ritual? We're going to take communion together in a minute. But my question and challenge to us all is, are you willing to let this moment become more than just a ritual? More than just, I'm going to take part in something incredibly sacred and holy that's just between me and God? Or are we going to actively embody the presence of Jesus that's meant to be flowing through us and choose a better communion? Better connection. Choose to invite someone. Choose to love on someone. Choose to pray for someone. Choose to invite someone around for a meal. Choose to encourage someone. Some of us, we've done all this, and we take these things, these emblems, and we become good at remembering the King. We become great at remembering Jesus, but we haven't responded to him. The question is, are you communing? Are you communing with the King? Are you communing with the God who gave everything to commune with you? Or is something keeping you from the essence of life itself? So often, there's something holding us. Perhaps there's fears of the unknown, that if I'm fully transparent, then that'll change how other people see me. And so what we'll do is we'll come and we'll take it, and then we'll run as quick as we can because I don't want them to know. Perhaps there's shame in your past. Perhaps there's guilt. Perhaps I don't know what there is. We'll take it, but we won't be fully transparent with the person next to us, the person that is in our lives that we need to be, and it keeps us in the dark. Or perhaps at this point, what you've realized is that I've been taking this my entire life and disconnecting from people. I've taken it as a ritual, then I've ran. Or maybe the flip of it is you're interested in this journey with the King, this journey with Jesus. You come to church, you engage in church, you watch online, but you're scared of the what if. Or you're scared, maybe not of the what ifs, you're scared of the what's. Like, what's going to happen if I step out and actively follow Jesus? What's going to happen? What's going to happen if I choose him? Like, what's he going to tell me that I can't do? What's he going to tell me that I need to start doing? What's he going to tell me that I've got to start doing? The question is, or the answer is, I don't know what the what's are for you. But this is what I do know, is that a connection with the King, or a beginning of a journey of faith, starts with baby steps. It doesn't start with all of a sudden your life is 100% different in every single area. It starts with baby steps. And somewhere along those baby steps, Jesus will ask you to change things, not do things, and of the sorts. But it's not going to be from a space of FOMO where you're scared that you're going to miss out. It's going to be from this realization that if I choose this, I am choosing the essence of life itself. And so I don't know where you're at. I don't know where you're at with communing with the King. I don't know if you've been communing with him in a way that brings life to you and life to everyone else, or if you've just been disconnected. But the antidote to it is simple. It's a simple prayer. And it's this. It's a lot of slides that I missed. It's this. It's God, I'm in. God, I'm in. I'm in when it comes to relationship with you. God, I'm in for community. I'm all in. I'm in with being transparent. God, I'm in. So this is what I want to encourage you to do. I don't know where you're at, and I don't mind. I don't know what your struggles are, and I don't mind. But I know that Jesus does, and he wants to heal you of that, and he wants to touch you in that space, in that place, that he wants to lead you, that he wants to restore you. And this sacred, incredibly sacred act of communion is meant to transcend far more than just this connection between me and God, but a connection between us. So this is what I want to encourage you to do. Perhaps this morning, this is your prayer, that as you take it, it's going to be, I'm in. God, I'm in. God, I've been distant. God, I've been disconnected. God, I haven't been connecting with people. I haven't been transparent. I haven't been vulnerable. I haven't started the journey with you. And God, I'm in. I'm in. I'm going to ask you to take this when you're ready. And if that's your prayer, I want to be able to pray for you. So the band are going to lead us in a song. I'd encourage you to take this as you feel led. The band will lead us in a song, and if this is your prayer, God, I'm in whatever way that is, come at the front. We don't need to talk about everything. I just want to pray for you. So how about we stand? The band are going to lead us. As you feel led, I want you to take this incredibly sacred act of Jesus' body and his blood. But don't end there. Engage with the sacred act of communing with the body. And if this is your prayer, God, I'm in. Take, eat, come at the front. I want to pray for you. I want to pray for you. So the band are going to lead us in song, and then Hannah's going to come up and she's going to close the service.
By you. those that want to stay in this space, we still have the invitation to come up and have prayer still open. So please come up. God, I'm in. If you're wanting prayer or you're wanting to make that declaration, oops, I stood on my daughter's fingers up the front here. Come up the front, because there's something important about walking up and going, yeah, God, I am surrendering, I'm making an action, I'm walking. And that's why we do the call out to the front to say, yes, God, I am in. So the band are going to run through that again. And if you would like to come up, then come up. If you're not, you are free to go, but please let's respect this space of people coming up and worshiping together or praying together. Thanks, Ben.
If you do want prayer, come at the front. Otherwise, head out and commune. Head out and take part
in communion. There's tea, there's coffee, there's conversation. Head out, engage with one another, connect with one another, encourage one another, pray for one another, be partaking in communion together. Look forward to seeing you all again next week for part 6, 7, I don't know. Anyways, head out and connect.